Brothers and sisters, may the peace that can only come from the one God be upon you. We are here to tell the people that we hear you. One God will not allow us as people of conscience to lose our morale.
Powered by our patrons.
Right. Dr. John Cooper Clarke, do you call that radio?
Brothers and sisters, may the peace that can only come from the one God be upon you. We are here to tell the people that we hear you. One God will not allow us as people of conscience to lose our morale. We see the crimes of this government, how they support every dictator and criminal on this earth. Sometimes you can feel down. Sometimes your morale can go down. Don't tell the people, I will not let your morale go down. You have to know that you're standing on the wrong side of history. People have gone out to the streets. The show is over. Take the streets back. 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 Oh, that's radio!
Strange mood of art.
You call that radio?
Makes coherent sense.
Good evening. How is everybody doing? Is everybody here? Is everyone went away to the pub? Because today is a historic day. A historic day because the pubs have reopened in Glasgow. I hear it on good authority. There's people queuing for sunbeds and steps. I hear that other people, are having haircuts. And let us know if you've had a pint or a haircut or a sunbed. There'll be no judgments here. I hope you're enjoying it. I hope everyone's safe and all that kind of stuff. Tonight is a really special episode. I've been wanting to do this one for ages. Probably this goes way back to before we did these lockdown. If you don't know, we did it. We've done an audio podcast since about a year ago. We started the audio podcast, and then during lockdown, we switched to this kind of format because someone's trying to phone me. Why would someone try and phone me? That shows you that my promo game ain't what it used to be. I used to be better at spamming and promoting things. People phoning me. Yeah, so this was a podcast I wanted to do for a long time to talk about how to protect your voice, how to project your voice, how to look after your vocal cords. It's not just for singers. Singers will benefit. Poets will benefit. Rappers, speakers, but just everyone in general will benefit from this. It's how you talk. It's how you breathe. It's how you hold yourself. There's so much to learn. And as someone who was talking and singing from a very young age and haven't really shut up since, it was surprising to me how little I know about all of this stuff. Like I don't know anything about it. I just got kind of started a band, started playing gigs, and never did a vocal warm-up. Well, I basically never did a vocal warm-up ever. And I've never really spoke about it before, but I had a throat operation for a vocal polyp. And after that, I couldn't talk for an entire month. Everyone thought that was hilarious. It was terrifying. Couldn't talk. And after that, I had to do some speech therapy. And they taught me that I wasn't talking right. I wasn't breathing right. And I did a few exercises. And then I did a singing lesson with Sev, who's going to be on the show. We've got Urszula, who's a speech therapist or a vocal coach. I can't remember exactly what her medical term is. So we've got her on the show. We've got Sev, who gave me my only ever singing lesson I've ever had. And it was so useful. I'm pretty pissed off at myself for not going back to Sev and learning more about it. And we've also got Lise, who is a holistic vocalist. It's very interesting what she was talking about earlier on. I don't know exactly what it is, and that's why I'm interested to talk to her as well, to hear what she's talking about it all. We might have Becky Wallace on later on as well. We might not. We don't know about that yet. But some amazing singers here. Hit the share button because this is going to be educational. And like I said, it's not just if you're a performer. This is how you are all probably talking wrong. You are all probably breathing wrong. And it's just good for your voice. It's good for your health. This is going to be a good one. So, yeah, thanks to all our guests. We've got Lise here. We've got Urszula there. We've got Sev here. Thanks for joining us tonight. I hope you are all well. And, yeah, everyone hit the share button and let's start the show.
You call that radio?
Here to tell the people that we hear you. One God will not allow.
You call that radio?
However you want to say it.
You call that radio?
You call that radio. However you want to say it, that's kind of part of the fun.
Powered by our patrons.
Brothers and sisters.
And we are indeed powered by our patrons. You call that radio. You can support the show by becoming a patron. The link's there. So, a couple of quid a month if you can afford that. That's appreciated. We are also, if you're watching this on Facebook, I would recommend you check it out on YouTube. It'll sound and look a bit better over there. And also, if you're there, smash that big red subscribe button and the notification bell, because we're nearly at 400 subscribers. I think we're about 394 or something like that. So it'd be good if you could do that. And also one more thing about YouTube is we've done about 70 shows since lockdown began. So there's lots of cool stuff on there. So it's the best way to watch all the previous shows. Facebook's a bit messy. We're also on twitch.tv. It sounds better and looks better over there, and they don't tend to cut us off for censorship issues or copyright issues. So get us on Twitch or YouTube. But if you're on Facebook, that's fine. That's fine. Do what you want. I'm going to bring on my first guest of this evening is Sev. Sev, how you doing? Oh, and the cat.
I'm doing great, thank you. And the cat, obviously, she's
a cat.
She's trying to get famous.
She's trying to get famous. Aren't we all? Or are we? Sev, you gave me my only ever singing lesson. Was that any good?
Which was a privilege for me. Yes, you were. I remember you were. Was it right after your surgery?
Yes. Yeah. So I had just went for a vocal polyp operation. I couldn't talk for a month, and I also learned that whispering is actually bad. Well, if you must talk in an emergency, you can talk, but don't be whispering because apparently that does something to the vocal cords, contracts them. I don't know. But they said don't talk. This also, if any of you might remember, this was at the same time as the Twistettes were on their way to Korea, and Joe left her bass guitar on a train, or it was stolen. Sorry, it was stolen off a train, and then there was a big massive thing on the BBC. Everybody in the world shared it. Everyone did a crowdfunder for Joe, but it ended up being able to just giving everyone a full refund because the person who stole the guitar actually messaged us. And me and Tam the van went to meet him because she was obviously worried about meeting a shady guy who stole a guitar. And we went down and met him, and I couldn't talk. So I just had to growl at him. But we got the guitar back. Long story short, eventually I could talk again. And after I think about a month of talking and doing vocal exercises, they told me to do a hum. Would that be right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they said, right, once you can hold the hum note for 10 seconds, and you don't even think about doing a singing lesson until you can do the for 10 seconds. And then they said, right, you need a singing lesson. So I thought, if I'm getting a singing lesson, I'm going to the best. I'm going to get Sev onto it. And what was the state of my voice at that point?
Well, it was definitely very tired and very weak. And I know you always strain your voice on stage because that's your style and that's what makes it very, very original. But as you know now, you aren't gentle with your vocal cords. So definitely we had to work a lot on breathing, as obviously breathing is a foundation of not only singing but speech, as you were saying earlier. So I remember we were doing a lot of breathing exercises and imagination exercises, if I remember well. Do you remember any of this? Because
yes.
our instrument is inside, it's hidden. We can't really teach you how to play piano. You press this key and that, or play guitar, you hold it in your hands. But the instrument inside is hidden. So our only way to discover it is through our imagination. So imagining how the breath comes in and out, imagining the direction of the breath, which is quite surreal maybe to hear for the first time, but how you imagine your air comes into your body and which direction. Does it go up? Does it go back the way? How far up it goes? It changes the way you sound. So imagining the sound and imagining where it comes from, and working on diaphragm, of course.
Yeah, the diaphragm thing.
I remember we were using the elastic band, right? The diaphragm thing, yeah. Did I use elastic with you?
I don't remember.
Where you were holding an elastic band. Actually, I should have it around here.
Okay.
You don't remember?
No, I don't.
Well, that's a very good exercise if anyone wants to do.
So you hold the elastic band because basically this was one of the many things I learned that I did wrong. So I wasn't singing right, talking about the strain in your voice thing, which makes for an original sound, but it's not original. It's just wrong. I was injuring my vocal cords every time I was performing, and I was used to having a loud band who were always trying to turn themselves up. I could never hear myself in the monitor, and I was just screaming, basically screaming. I learned how to not scream.
And you never did vocal warm-up?
Never once did I do a vocal warm-up. And it's shocking, but that's the truth. The only time I've ever done a vocal warm-up was maybe before one recording session very early on, and it was a guy who told me to go lager, 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 and I think he was taking the piss. I felt stupid.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know if it was real. I don't know if it was a real vocal warm-up. I think it was taking the piss.
You know what?
Do you think it was taking the piss at me?
I don't think he was taking a piss, and the fact that it made you chuckle actually was good for you because it relaxes muscles, and there's nothing worse for a singer than feeling tension and contracted muscles. And so relaxing and jokey part of it was actually him doing you a favor. Lager, lager, lager. It warms up the tongue. I'm not sure about vocal cords if it's just on one note.
Yeah, just lager, lager.
Without moving your face.
Without moving your face.
That's weird.
I actually know the guy. I should bring him on the show. I'll find out.
Yeah.
Well, he's not here just now, so
do that. We need to ask. We need answers.
We need answers. I want answers for that one. Yeah, so that was really only time, and I suppose the kind of scene that we were coming from, it was not a done thing. I mean, very rarely. I mean, especially in the early days, it was unusual for us to get a green room where we were allowed to just sit backstage. And then these days, when we do get a green room, it's usually sharing with other bands, and it's usually quite a jovial sort of, you know, I mean, we don't have like mad parties in the green room or anything like that, but just it's a jovial atmosphere of people having drinks and excited. They've just come on, they're just going on stage or they've just come off stage.
Absolutely.
But there doesn't really usually.
And you don't want to seem like this.
Could everyone be quiet? Could everyone that's having a great time right now in this party just be quiet so that I can do my vocal warm-ups? You wouldn't feel comfortable doing that. And there's nowhere quiet where you could just go away and do it. And, you know, every time you're just about to do a gig, there's always people wandering around trying to blag guest lists or ask you a question and stuff like that as well. So there's never seemed to be an actual space for it. But a lot of that is just down to that's just a mind state that I'm in, that I think that I would look foolish or like a diva for wanting to do a vocal warm-up. But I realise that's
I think we all have that.
I think most people would, if I said that, they would be surprised that I was asking that. But they would probably be like, well, that's fair enough, good on you. And they would let me do my vocal warm-up.
Yeah.
So it's all in our head. I mean,
it's always the self-conscious.
Do you do your vocal warm-ups before you get to the venue?
But I have two things to say for that.
Okay.
I would say yes. If someone's very conscious about warming up around other people, first I would say you can warm up at home before you even make your way to the venue. Even if it's hours before, it's still better than no warm-up at all. Second thing, the easiest, quickest, safest, and quietest warm-up is this. Do it a few times. You don't even have to open your mouth.
I mean, I'll try it.
It's better than no warm-up at all.
Okay, I'll try it.
Try that.
I don't know.
Oh, Mark.
How
is your voice feeling? Because there's a lot of cracks and yeah, it seems like you're hurting. Try to do it gentle.
Yeah, I was trying to imitate you, but that's not going to work because you've got an incredible voice. So I'm just trying to sort of go in at the deep end.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Imitate anyone. Just go as far low as you can and as far high as you can. And on it's easier to go higher and lower than on the vowel, say.
Well, we might actually get a couple. If anyone wants to call in, you call that radio. You can actually call that radio if you want to try out some of these exercises. I think that would be quite a fun thing to do. So yeah, that makes sense. So that's an example of a vocal warm-up that I got wrong. So so that's good advice though. You can do it beforehand. That's a good question actually. So doing a vocal warm-up before you leave the house is much better than doing it later on. Can you damage your vocal warm-up?
No, not better than doing later on, but it's better than not doing any.
Yes, no, that's what I mean. Yeah, that's what I meant. But would that be you doing a vocal warm-up? Say you do a vocal warm-up at 5 o'clock in your house and you arrived at the venue at 7 and you're not on stage till 9. Is it best to just not talk to anyone for 2 hours? Or could you undo your nice vocal warm-up by speaking to people? You can't undo a warm-up.
See, you can't undo a warm-up, but if your speech is healthy and you're keeping your voice healthy, speaking shouldn't tire your voice out. You should be able to sing for 4-5 hours without a strain on your vocals if you're doing it healthy. So no, I wouldn't say don't talk to anybody, because talking is warming up too, you know, you're warming up your muscles in the face, which is important. Yeah.
Right. I was just hoping you were going to give me an excuse.
You can, if you.
So I still need to talk to the people because it's actually helps with the warm up. So you're just like, you're talking, that helps warm up. Yeah. Okay. So you can talk to people. And if you're doing it right, 4 hours of singing. And that's a very good point, because when I'm straining my voice like that, I couldn't do 4 hours. Well, I could do 4 hours, no problem, but I would be very hoarse by the end of it because I think adrenaline takes you through, and I would be sore the next day. So that means I'm not doing it right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Unfortunately.
and it shouldn't feel so. Like when we did the hour vocal lesson, and I was going higher and higher and higher and hitting these notes, it didn't feel at all like I was straining. It felt eventually, it felt weird. It felt weird for a while, but then it felt like it was just natural.
Mhm.
And that was something that I learned from that. And it was just,
Oh, that's
it should just come out beautifully, like just air coming out. There shouldn't be any
effortless. Effortless.
And that comes down to the diaphragm.
Do you watch birds ever?
No.
Yeah. How effortless birds, and their tiny throats are like tiny, and their voices are just like
All right, I thought you meant a
huge.
TV show,
And yet
Birds
they
or
do it
something.
without
You ever watch
any.
Birds? You mean the actual birds, like the birds
Oh.
of a feather? Like, right? No, yeah, no, I've seen they guys. Yeah, they just open their beaks.
Effortless. That's the key. That's the key.
And the diaphragm.
Another thing I would advise
continue.
doing before a gig. We go back to diaphragm, I'm sure. Another thing to do, not only warming up your voice, but relaxing your muscles. Remember how we were doing shoulder rolls and neck stretches, everything gentle, whole body stretches. Everything is important to relax as much as you can. So we do a little bit of this looking left.
The left. I still do that one.
Yeah.
I do that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And just
a little bit of this. Of course, don't pull anything. Just be gentle. Yeah. Yawning is a good warm-up. You want to talk about diaphragm?
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people don't understand what a diaphragm is. I certainly didn't understand it all. And I think that was quite important for understanding, where the voice is coming from. And also just, it sounds really stupid, but the breathing, I'd never really thought of the fact that the belly's going the opposite way from what I naturally thought it was. Do you know what I mean?
What do you mean opposite way?
Well, do you know, like, I thought, like, you take a deep breath and then you start singing. I thought the breath was coming out the way, not in the way, if that makes sense. But I was wrong. That was many of the things I was wrong at.
Okay. So there's a quick way to check for yourself and feel in your body where a diaphragm is and how it works, because everybody's diaphragm works, no matter if you're a singer or not. If we can hear you, you're using diaphragm. You take a breath, and on exhale, you make a sound on the letter S. And observe where you should feel working muscles in around your belly button area. Another one, quick to check where your diaphragm is, on the letter F, staccato. You can put your hand on your stomach, maybe I'll show. Put the head on your stomach and see how it bounces. That's a diaphragm. And the exercise I did with you on strengthening a diaphragm was with an elastic band. Maybe do you want to talk for 30 seconds and I bring elastic band and show how to use it?
Do you know what I'll do, Sev? What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to play one of your tunes just now. It's a live improv that Sev did. I think that'd be nice just for people to sort of hear, get a rough idea of the kind of thing that Sev does. Where was this recorded? Live improv?
That was
Okay,
a
well,
couple of years ago
okay, let's check
in
this
the
out.
house.
And
It's just a improvised session with vocals only.
brilliant. Let's check it out.
Okay, now go. Yes.
You call that radio?
Call that radio.
What about the people who hated on me?
Right, and then I see the disinfectant that knocks it out in a minute.
That's mad, isn't it? Is this a Netflix thing?
It's actually a podcast.
What the fuck's a podcast?
You know, it's kind of like a radio show.
Call that radio.
Yeah.
And is there a way we can do something like that?
I couldn't help it.
By injection inside or
Yeah, I think so, because I think just paint in general, because I think like my poem is in my painting.
No, cut. If you call that radio, this is the project, because projecting your voice, it's the project, but it looks like project. And we're with Sevka, we just watched an amazing improv. So for there's no, it's just improvise. It's like the singing equivalent of a freestyle, sort of.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. John McMuster's in the house. He says that's incredible. And Duncan Campbell says we're both sitting here sounding like an ambulance trying these warm ups. Well, an ambulance is better. I sounded like a broken down ambulance. I sounded like a broken down ambulance when I tried it. Sev, you are amazing. Says it.
Oh.
Is it
Thank
Julia?
you, Julia.
Julia, nice one. Thanks for tuning in. Can you send me a link? I can't speak anymore, even outside shops and stuff. Yeah, well, yeah, I think Sev does do lessons and stuff, so we're going to share all that. My favourite Mark voice is the Turtle, so that's a song, the Turtle. He went, no, fucked it. My favourite Mark is Secret Animal, because if you actually listen to Gyro Babies, you can see I always had quite a low, husky voice, and then as I started damaging my vocal cords more, it became much lower, and it just unhinged at times. And now, when you listen to the more recent stuff, I've got a bit more of a level on the voice. Tam the Van is here. He says Kyle had 3 holes in his, 2 at the back, 1 in the front, but he's chanting to this. Amazing stuff. Shouts to Kyle. And
Brilliant.
Rebound therapy is good for everything done on a trampoline. Soapy says, sorry, Mark, you collided with the pubs opening up. Wait, what are the pubs like? Let me know if you've had your first pint. I'd like to know if you're okay. Angie Dixon says, good evening, just as my first haircut today. On yourself, Angie. Ian Simpson says, more on the patrons. Shout outs to Ian Simpson, one of the patrons. Sharon says, just nipped to the shop, long queue at the sunbed shop. Sad feckers. Evening, Mark, Kids 100's in the house. Alan Govan says, need this so much, looking forward to it. Well, Alan, you've actually got a great voice as well. But we can all do better. I think that's an important thing, because obviously, as someone who wasn't, I'm not trying to say that I'm a shite singer, but I found my own way of, my own style of doing things. But there's people out there that sing brilliantly, but they can always do more.
Certainly, yes, you can always do more. There's always room for improvement.
And what would happen, say, if you didn't have a warm-up? Would you, if you were to do a gig without a vocal warm-up, because the kind of notes that you would hit in a normal gig, would that mean that not warming up's not really an option for you? Would you just have to kind of play it a bit cooler?
I've done my fair share of gigs and performances without warm-up, or with just a minimum warm-up that I was showing you earlier. And the difference is that I am more tense, and as a result, I can't reach certain notes as nicely as I would have otherwise, or as effortlessly. You know what I mean? It's less effortless.
Well, it's one of the things that I have done is, if I'm recording something and I do a really high note and it takes me a few takes to do, I just don't even record it. Usually I just say, well, I'm not going to be able to do that live, so I'm just
live.
I'm not going to bother doing a big fancy note and then not be able to do it live. However, there's been a couple of songs that we've wrote, and what seemed to work for me was by having it towards the end of the song, it kind of gradually built to the note, and then I would be able to actually nail that note. But I certainly wouldn't be able to be starting a song with a high note as someone who doesn't warm up their vocals. That would be a ridiculously stupid idea.
Yeah, that would be difficult to do. But as you're saying, if you're progressively singing a song, you're essentially warming yourself up for that end note. Yeah, you're totally right. That's correct.
Now, what about other things? Obviously, we know it breaks my heart to hear all the things that are bad for your voice, because a lot of the things that are bad for your voice are things that I enjoy, such as smoking is terrible for your voice. Is that true or false?
True.
Well, I'm
sorry.
I've not smoked.
How is your not smoking?
How is my not smoking? Well, it's been going okay. Lockdown has been easier for me to quit because I think there's been less of the I think that the time, it's usually after a gig or maybe just before a gig that I might go a month without smoking, and then because I don't get drunk before gigs, so I'm just sitting around pubs for hours, and I find that that's when it's just I'm used to just sort of wandering around my cigarette before a gig. So if I can get to the end of the gig without smoking, that's fine. But then I tend to, the adrenaline, having a cigarette after a gig, I always enjoy that. So that's usually how I relapse. That's how I usually relapse. And then I just smoke for the rest of the night, and then I buy cigarettes, because obviously nowadays you need to buy 500 cigarettes in order to smoke. So you end up you end up with a big pouch of back. I'm exaggerating a wee bit. And then I kind of smoke, but I've been quite good because it's not been the live gigs. I only smoked 12 times between January the 12th and about a month ago. But the last couple of weeks, I'll be honest, I've been smoking every other day, which isn't good. But I'm working on it. I'm working on it, and I would encourage everyone else to try and quit as well. And I'm getting good. I'm getting good at quitting. I realise it's not as big a deal.
You do it so much, you're getting good at it, yeah?
Yeah, well, I think it's you don't if you want to get advice, you want advice from someone who's experienced in quitting, and I have quit smoking more times than anyone else in Scotland. So, but yeah, I would advise everyone to quit smoking. What else? Is it true or false? Dairy products bad for your voice?
Yes, but I can't really explain why. I know that dairy produce sort of. See, I'm saying yes because I heard it, but I haven't really understood
actually,
why.
I heard that
it's not like it's damaging.
When
Maybe
when I was doing the operation, I think it was after that. It was like one of the rules was do not touch dairy products. I think maybe that was during the healing process. So I think that there is, obviously, it's nowhere near as damaging as smoking or anything like that.
Smoking.
But
I heard it's something to do with mucus.
Maybe on the day of a performance or something like that, you should probably avoid it. Or if you're trying to heal your throat, which I was doing, then you should try and avoid it as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Also,
so no milk and honey. No.
Well,
Honey's also bad.
So honey, now this is the thing now, because obviously if you've got a sore throat, then people recommend a hot drink with honey, ginger, coriander, just like a nice little mixture, a little magic potion.
Coriander?
Well, I kind of went a bit mad with the spice rack. I've got an extensive spice rack and I got carried away maybe. But cinnamon sticks is also supposed to be good.
Yeah.
Cinnamon sticks, all that kind of stuff. And then I heard that actually that dries up your throat. So although it might alleviate the pain, something like hot ginger, hot honey, it will alleviate the pain. It might be good for you, but maybe only limit that to one a day. And that's obviously if you're recovering. But what do you know about that? Like I said, that's just what I've understood because I thought it was really good for your throat. And then I did notice that it was kind of drying out my throat. And apparently that's what they say. A bit of ginger tea or a honey tea is good in small doses. It will help, but you shouldn't be doing a lot of that in a day. What do you know about that?
Yes, I've always heard from my mom, who's a singer, that to not eat honey and not eat peanuts, which I don't know if you've heard of it.
Not heard that one, no.
The peanuts apparently are also bad. Maybe Urszula will tell us more because I'm really, really, really curious about this.
Well, actually, let's get
rumors.
Let's get on Urszula just now. Urszula, thanks for joining us.
No, thank you.
What is your actual job role? I think I've called you two different things already.
Many things.
Yeah.
So I'm a speech and language therapist, and I work with children at the moment, but it's children with any sort of communication difficulties, and that includes voice disorders. So that's why you've got the voice bit, but yeah, speech and language therapist is the job title.
Well, that's what was quite interesting is the first time I went to a speech therapist after the operation, the woman went, right, just talk to me, say something, just to get a sound check, basically.
Yeah.
And as soon as I said something, she just kind of smiled and laughed and went, yeah, that's why you got a vocal pop, because they didn't know why it was. They said that it can be straining your voice by singing too loud. It could be talking too loud, not breathing properly when you're talking. It can also be down to smoking. It can also be genetic, that I didn't do anything wrong. But based on the evidence we have that I do talk too loud, I do strain my voice, and I don't warm up, it seems like it is my own fault and I brought it on myself. So, she said that by talking, the thing that I still struggle with is that you should talk the right amount of breath, and then your breath should end as the sentence ends. And that still is very tricky for me to get my head around. I figured that out for a few weeks, but I didn't do the exercises because I'm a bad example of how to do this. And now it's kind of, I don't know, what was she meaning?
Well, I suppose when she was talking about breath support or trying to talk using the right amount of breath, she was talking about breath support. Sometimes we have a habit, if we want to talk loudly or shout or even sing loudly, to sort of take a really big breath, a deep breath, and almost force the air out. Whereas to optimize our voice, and Sev and also Lise will be able to, there'll be masters at this, is to try and use as little breath as possible to make as much to project your voice, because a lot. I know that Sev touched on this before. Any form of tension in your body, anywhere at all, or anxiety, even at a psychological level, all these things can impact your voice. So it's hard to separate everything. But one of the things, if you run out of air when you're talking, then you'll end up kind of straining your voice because you don't have enough air. So often so I work at the moment with children, and I need to teach little ones, usually around as young as 6, about their voice and how they produce it. So one of the things we talk about is the air being like the power of your voice. So if you run out of air, then you've run out of power, and that engine, or your voice box, which contains your vocal cords or vocal folds, will become strained, and it needs a bit more power to keep going. So that's what the speech and language therapist would have been trying to get at. And sorry.
That's exactly what, because now I'm aware when I'm doing it. So I suppose that's one thing that I have learned, is that when I get, can I get excited? I've got an idea. I want to say something, so I just go la 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 la, and I just talk too much, and I can feel it in my throat after I've done it, and I just did that thing again.
Yeah, and the thing is, I think it's easy to say, oh, it's my own fault, it was my habits, but actually we don't think about talking a lot because we do it all the time. We've been doing it most of our lives. And until there's a reason for us to think about it, like we lose our voice or our job depends on it and we have some difficulties with our voice, then, essentially we don't know what's good and what's bad for it. And there's some really simple things that we can do, that we can all do in our daily habits that are, that are easy to do, but until and until they're part of your routine, then it doesn't necessarily come naturally. So
just touching on the things we were talking about earlier on, what is your stance on ginger, honey, that kind of thing?
Well, one of the things I'll say is that any hot or very cold drinks is not great for your vocal folds.
Well, anything
that irritates, so spicy, or anything that dehydrates.
That's another one. Spicy food. I wasn't allowed spicy food, and I love spicy food.
It's anything that's harsh on your vocal folds.
Would you say that spicy food is more? Can we enjoy spicy food on days we're not performing? Is it more of a thing, avoid spicy food on the day of performing, or is it just a no-no in general?
No, I think I love spicy food, and it's absolutely fine. I think to have spicy food, I'd say if you're having problems with your voice, then until your voice is in a better way, then probably avoid these things generally, or have them in small amounts. But if your voice is quite healthy, then they're unlikely to have a major impact. So it is a bit everything in moderation. But if it's a day that you're performing and you're prone to some difficulties with your voice, then trying to follow all your good habits is to sort of nth degree is probably okay advice.
Well, that's the interesting thing about the not too hot, not too cold. I actually knew that quite a while ago, because you'll hear that coming up a lot when people are talking about vocals. Because if you have got a really bad throat, if you've got a really sore throat, hopefully this is still correct advice, or correct me if I'm wrong, but you get a bit of salt in a glass and you want it to be lukewarm. You don't want it to be hot and you don't want it to be cold. You want it to be in somewhere nice in the middle, maybe slightly warm but not too warm. And that's when you gargle the salt. And if you've got a really bad sore throat, then that's going to give you some instant relief.
Yeah, so the gargling with salt thing is to do with it's recommended to do with salt sort of antiseptic properties. So it's sort of, if you've got a bit of a bit of an infection. But if we don't generally recommend gargling salt in terms of, for managing voice disorders as such. We would more recommend steam inhalation. So, and nothing in the water, just inhaling steam over a bowl, like you might have done when you're young and you had a bad cold, or even just a hot steamy shower. Can actually be it can be quite a good habit, and particularly after you've used your voice a lot. So that can be if you are a singer and you've performed, or you're a poet and you've spoken a lot, or you have a job where you use your voice a lot, like teaching, or you play football and you're out playing and you're shouting a lot on the pitch. All these kind of activities that you use your voice a lot can tire them out, and doing some steam inhalation following that, or on a bit more of a regular basis, can help hydrate the vocal folds, which is really important. So one of the things that I will always recommend is always to have some water. And it's not about drinking loads, it's about just taking sips and just to keep your vocal folds lubricated. So even if you are, might be having a drink, like alcohol is in, or you have, anything, lots of these things that you do that might not be the best for your voice, but sipping water and keeping your vocal folds lubricated is one of the most simple but really effective ways that you can help. And I will say that if you have, there's certain types of voice problems of the voice, like for example nodules, which are structural, so just little growths on your vocal folds, which because of them rubbing together, usually too harshly, but they can actually disappear through changes of habits. Depends, sometimes people need surgery, but I think trying to follow the habit, like if you can change your habits, it can actually be to the point that you can get rid of things like nodules. So it's important.
Yeah, that's correct. The reason that I couldn't change my ways is because I was too far gone.
Yeah,
it was a vocal polyp the size of a thumb, because whatever I was doing wrong often and wrong. And I suppose that's another thing is water, because I do forget to drink water. I'm trying to work in that, but I do forget about it. And I think it's really interesting you mentioned about, this is not just about singers. If you work in a call center or you're a teacher, these are really things that you should be thinking about.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
definitely.
Okay, so we've got, I think we're going to get Lise Mitchell Noble. How are you doing?
Good, nice one. How are you?
I'm very well. You are live from the Highlands, I understand.
I am, yeah. I moved from one part of the Highlands to another, so I'm even more north than I was before. I'm up like Kishorn now, so I'm away for the pubs.
Beautiful. I'm jealous. Away from the pubs, but I mean, who needs pubs when you're up there? I mean, we've been here in the city centre for 5 months with no pubs and just city centre vibes. So yeah, I'm definitely jealous of the Highlands right now, and anyone that stays anywhere that's nice. So could you just explain what it is you do?
Yeah, so I call myself a holistic vocal practitioner. So there's different aspects to what I do. I've got my own creative practice as an improvisatory musician, and the emphasis with that is on voice, but I play other instruments as well. And then I do research on voice, and I'm interested in confidence building through vocal expression. And the holistic element of that is that I'm working with social, emotional, psychological, physiological and spiritual elements, because the voice is this amazing thing that kind of taps into all these different areas. And so I share that work doing like one-to-one facilitation and community music stuff, workshops as well. So different strands, but they all kind of inform each other.
Confidence is a good word as well, and I think that Sev kind of touched on it a little bit earlier on, because if you're anxious and if you've not done your warm-up, that could make you anxious and tense. And I suppose if you're confident and you're doing things right, then there's less likely that you're going to strain it or damage your vocal cords.
For sure, yeah. So the points that both Sev and Urszula made previously were really interesting. I was taking notes. I love this stuff. I thought it was interesting, this kind of question coming up of like, when does your preparation begin? So this is where I feel the kind of holistic element really comes into play, because we're thinking about, you know, the body as an instrument, but beyond, you know, the practical things that we can do to stretch and check our alignment and try to relieve tension, there's kind of layers and layers that you can go with that. So I really like Tai Chi, for example, as I suppose it's like a body practice. It's a martial art as well, but I actually have found it to be really helpful for my vocal warm-up process, because it allows me to get my circulation going, my alignment to be kind of, I'm suddenly tapping into my body. I'm more aware of what's going on. I can check my balance. I have to be aware of my breath as well. That whole process gives me a bit of focus, and it allows me to kind of calm my central nervous system down as well. And yeah, just the gentle stretching and opening to try and relieve extraneous tension from the body. So there's obviously a psychosomatic thing going on. Your body is connected to your emotions, and they kind of inform each other, and there's a dialogue always going on between all these different aspects of the self, really.
Could we maybe compare two average days? So what we've got on A, you've got the ideal approach. How would you ideally approach a live performance? And B, how would you make do if you were kind of rushed? You know, you're maybe traveling for a gig and you've just arrived late. And how would the two things differ?
Yeah, that's a great question. So yeah, ideal for me would be get a good night's sleep the night before, plenty rest, start your day the way that you need to get things off to a kind of a relaxed approach. I don't really like usually to be practicing or rehearsing on the day of a performance. Obviously there's sound checks and stuff that are involved, but ideally I just want to be putting all my energy into getting myself in like an optimum frame of mind where I'm relaxed, really, most importantly, and, you know, feeling comfortable with the space that I'm about to be in. So yeah, making sure that I've hydrated well, that's happening the day before as well. And yeah, hopefully, if possible, I think we mentioned dietary stuff, you know, just try to give yourself good fuel, feed your body and nourish yourself as best you can. And I would definitely be spending some time doing physical warm-up, some exercise, then maybe some more focused stuff that relates to breath support. And then, yeah, just a bit of a social warm-up as well. Or, you know, like I have a spiritual practice and part of that relates to meditation. So for me, that has to feature somewhere in my day to kind of keep me calm and level-headed and focused and connected to the space. So that's like an ideal day. On a rushed sort of thing.
Yeah, wait. Let me paint the scene for you.
Yeah.
So you're because obviously all the things you mentioned there are just no wonder I get vocal polyps, because on the day of a gig, I'm rushing about. I've usually got new t-shirts to pick up. I've got or CDs or some sort of merch issue going on. I've got to locate a drummer who's usually went disappeared. No one's sure if he's going to be there or not. You've got, you know, obviously in the early days, a hangover would be involved, which is dehydration. Terrible way to start your day. So obviously, I know that you're a professional, so you wouldn't do any of those things, and as am I to a certain extent these days. But things happen, especially touring. So you're traveling, and you just arrive in time for your sound check. You've not had time to do all those things. How would you turn that around?
So yeah, I like to familiarize myself with the space if I've not already been in the venue. For me, that's actually really important for me to feel grounded and relaxed. And part of that sort of social interaction as well, I think Sev mentioned talking, and actually once you're kind of active in that process and kind of having a bit of banter with people, sound people, security, MD on the door, you're already in this sort of dialogue and energy exchange. So that for me is a good way to like calm me down a bit, to relax, to kind of tune into the space and get an idea of like the acoustic of the space as well, so that I can get a sense of that. Especially sound checks always end up super rushed sometimes. We can't help that. So yeah, and basically to have a bit of a routine that just is purely related to a stretch and alignment. So that can be done really, really quickly. You're just wanting to check. I'll stand up and show you. You're just wanting to check your feet hip width apart, shoulders nice and relaxed. Anything that you can do to kind of just connect with the body. And as you're doing that, check in with your breath. Just use the opportunity that you have. It could be 30 seconds, it could be a minute, 5 ideally, for a kind of minimal like overall thing. Just to feel like, okay, am I holding any additional tension? And that doesn't just relate to like, you know, shoulders, knees, joints, but like emotionally, how am I feeling? And am I kind of grounded? So yeah, like everybody has their own little techniques and coping mechanisms and strategies to deal with stressful environments. And like, I think it's important that you try and just pull on all the resources that you have available to you, because it means that you can improvise. Like that's one of my favorite tools, is improvisation in like all aspects of life. Just, you know, if you are into like sport and fitness, then you would usually do some kind of a warm-up. So you can apply that to, you know, before you do a performance, or just get yourself like in your kind of like frame of mind or psychology that you need to be able to deliver what you want to do. So there's so many aspects to that, but yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think as well, like, I think a lot of people don't realise how stressful playing a gig can be, especially if you're promoting the gig, running the door, performing and all that stuff as well. It's a lot. So yeah, just having a wee time out, catch your breath, see how you're feeling. If if you can do it, that's amazing. Have you got like an express, like, you know, say if had a wee quick vocal warm-up? So say for example, there is no, either you don't have the time or you don't have the space to do a vocal warm-up, or it's not appropriate wherever you are. Well, first of all, 2 questions to that. Do you have an express vocal warm-up? What would that look like? And also, how comfortable are you with maybe in the green room just saying to everyone, can you all just shut up? I'm just going to do a wee thing.
Yeah, I liked it when you mentioned that earlier on, because it was giving me like flashbacks to you know, years ago of being like, oh God, and like hiding in the toilets and stuff like that, or you know, being like running round the block outside. So yeah, I think different spaces call for different approaches, and I think a lot of that comes down to like, how do you feel in yourself in that moment, and do you care actually, like, which is a tricky one to negotiate in a shared space. But yeah, like you can still vocalize and do what you need to do without necessarily like commanding the space, I think, you know, or you can just hide out back and if nobody else is doing a sound check. So
Sev actually taught me one, I think it was Sev, brrr, like the brrr one.
Yeah.
So what I've found is a couple of times when I'm just about to go on stage, I'll maybe just be sort of pacing, is the best way to describe it. A quick pace up and down, brrr, and nobody really knows I'm doing it because it's quite a noisy environment anyway. So that's sort of
sure.
Quite
That's
a
a
good
good
one.
I think definitely like I think
So I'll just to clarify that one. It's brrr, and then just kind of like let your shoulders relax and that kind of thing. Is that right, Sev?
Yes, lip roll.
Yes.
You can go up and down on your notes if you want.
Well, too, I've noticed though, see when you're quite tense, it's actually quite hard to do. Like your lips don't actually roll. You're like, brr, brr, brr. Do you know what I mean? Does that ever happen to you, or is that? Yeah, it just happens.
Yes.
It's just because you're not in the right space for it, I suppose, isn't it?
But also, obviously, it's good to relax your mouth. And
Yeah.
if you can't do the lip roll, you can hold your fingers here. It makes it a bit easier. Just here.
Yeah. That's great advice. That's great advice. Because sometimes I just try to sneak it in, and with nobody watching. But I think that the pressure of going, brr, you know, sometimes you just can't do it. Wait, I think this is a good start. What we're going to do is I'm just going to play. Lise, you've got a really good video introducing True Voice creation. So what I was going to say to you guys, we've got 3 experts here. If anyone's got any questions, please just use it wisely. There's some time if you've got any questions. And this is whether you're a singer or you're a teacher or you work in a call center. This is stuff about your voice, whether you're a performer or whether you're just using your voice a lot. It's handy stuff to know. We've got experts here ready to answer any questions you have. We're just going to have a couple of minutes break while we watch this video. Felice, maybe you could just introduce it.
Actually, I'll tell you who made it because she's worth a shout out. My friend Tanya Shangan. So yeah, she's a filmmaker and she does kind of documentary stuff, and she helped me out with this video. So you should try and check her out when you get a chance.
Absolutely, and I've watched this one already. It's a great video, so everyone enjoy. There's if anyone's got any questions, just leave them in the comments. We're on Facebook Live, we're on Twitch, we're on YouTube. Doesn't matter where you're watching it, it should appear in the comments and we'll be able to ask the question. So yes, this is the video just now. There we go.
My name is Lise and I'm a vocal practitioner based in Scotland, working everywhere. My time is spent between my own creative practice as a performer, musician, and songwriter. And then I also spend time researching voice, and my particular interest is confidence building through vocal expression and looking at the therapeutic benefits of voice work and singing. And the emphasis of that is really about finding confidence in expressing this idea of a true voice, or a voice that is personal and unique to you. It's not simply standing and in front of a piece of music and learning repertoire. It's also about giving people tools to develop a relationship with themselves and explore themselves through the voice. In the last few years, been working with an approach to voice which is almost inviting people to come on a journey through sound. Relaxation is a big part of preparation, and especially when it comes to trying to provide a space where people can develop confidence. With breath work and body work, the aim of exercises in that realm are really to just bring people's awareness into themselves and recognizing that the entire body is the instrument, not just the throat, and that actually when when your whole system is working kind of in a harmonious way, and when everything is in a kind of good balanced state, then the voice actually has space to flow in a natural way. On this journey that I'm learning, holding pockets, fires burn. Maybe it is something in this guitar. A lot of the tools are just finding ways to remove extraneous tension from the mind and from the body and from your kind of emotional space, so that you can relax into, you can just let what needs to come out, and that in itself, I think, is where the therapeutic quality comes
But I
in.
seem to keep coming back to this line of sinking.
And I always like to come back to that example of children wailing and screaming, because they have the capacity to do this for hours at a time without any vocal strain, and because they're accessing a kind of a primal sound that the body intuitively understands how to produce that.
Following and breathing out this vocal fire that is burned.
People are so quick to say, "Oh, I can't sing," or being really self-critical about their voices, and it's such a self-conscious area for so many people. And I think it's really a matter of time and energy, and that if you're not primarily concerned with aesthetic and creating this idea of something that's simply beautiful, then you come back to looking at the voice in a much more primal way, and that it's your instrument of expression. So I think everyone has capacity. It's important to create actually a safe space for people to feel that they can take the risk to explore that, and to make mistakes, and to maybe make sounds that don't sound, so pretty.
I got you. Ready? Yeah, he's 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. Yo, this is Charlie Tuna from Jurassic 5 live and direct here in Glasgow, Scotland, and you call that radio?
Upon you, we are here to tell the people that we hear you. One God will not allow us and people of conscience to lose our morale. We see the crimes of this government, how they support every dictator and criminal on this earth. Sometimes you can feel down. Sometimes you're brothers and sisters.
Is that you, Daniel? Are you before me?
You call that radio?
Hello, yes, this is Dog.
You call that radio? We're back, and we're with Lise, we're with Urszula, we're with Sev, and we're gonna ask questions. If anyone's got any questions, leave them in the comments, and we'll do our best to ask them. Just a wee shout out for Lise. You've got Facebook for people that might be interested. It's I've got in the comments here. So I'm just going to put all your links in the comments. So what's the best place to get you? You've got Facebook, Instagram, and you've got your own website. So would you maybe send people to the website first, or?
Yeah, there's still a few bits to edit on there, but I've just got it to a stage where it's got enough information on there. So yeah, check that out. There's lots of links and stuff. So yeah, and there's some free resources and more coming soon. So yeah.
Brilliant stuff. So the video's great. I like the fact that you're talking about the people being self-conscious, basically. So I remember saying to Barry Neeson, who's a great artist, I said to him, "Oh, I can't draw," and he's like, "Of course you can draw. You can draw a circle. Then that means you can draw a face." And it made me think about it a bit differently. So, what would you say to someone who's saying, "Oh, I can't sing"?
So yeah, I think this is also maybe a thread to like weave into Urszula as well, because yeah, like we all have the ability to approach like methodologies or exercises and warm-ups, but everybody can have a different physiological thing if they've got an underlying condition, or if there's like some vocal pathology or issues there going on. So I never like to be like absolutely definitive in saying that, because everyone will have a case-by-case thing that's unique for them. But when I think of voice and singing, I really think about okay, we have this intention to communicate, which is maybe like the starting point for the sound. Like Sev spoke about the singing and the imagination, which I think is really interesting. But then there's the other aspect, which is like your ability to be able to communicate and express in the way that you want to. So that's where I think of this, like it's like a journey really between those 2 points, to try and find a way for there to be like a clear channel between those 2 points. And yeah, that's a very personal journey. It looks like something different for everyone, but yeah, I'm very much about like, you know, everybody's got their own ideas, their own interests and tastes in art and culture and music. So you know, everybody's got their own unique sound and voice. So it's just like teasing that out, and
yeah, bringing that bringing their own voice. And I think it's an important thing as well. Like, there's lots of amazing. My favorite artists they're not always necessarily good singers, but they have somehow harnessed their own voice and their own way of doing it. And that's the big thing. It's like that unique sound is worth a lot more to me. An imperfect unique sound is better than someone just trying to imitate, you know, that kind of X Factor singing that we hear a lot of.
Sure. Yeah, I think definitely that's for me the quality that I want to hold, but then I also, it's important to like marry that with safe practice. So that's where the benefit of
because
exercises
having a unique voice isn't great if you're just going to destroy your vocal cords and then not be able to perform for 6 months. Sev, with yours on that similar vein, do you have a lot of people who maybe come to your lessons and it's they actually can sing, but it's more a confidence issue?
Yes, actually, I would say everybody, every single person coming for lessons, it's mostly to do with confidence, and they want this reassurance of someone who they believe knows about a certain subject to tell them, you're doing good, you're doing great. Of course, apart from certain exercises and things to work on. I don't remember who said it, but there's a quote saying that singing is done much more in ears and brain than throat. I'm not sure I'm correct quoting it exactly how it was said, but point being that it's all in our heads. So whether you believe in yourself, if you believe in yourself, you're gonna sound much better than if you're all tensed up and feeling like you're not reaching your potential. Like Lise said, it's about marrying the technique, but also feeling true to yourself and confident in yourself.
And also, with regards to confidence and stuff like that, is that, I mean, how we were talking about the idea of, you know, someone saying that they either they can't do it. There's the sort of lack of confidence, and how would you go around about changing someone's mind frame?
Well, I mean, I totally agree with both Sev and Lise in that, you know, your own perception of your voice and your own confidence and things like your state of mind, your emotional well-being, these all impact on your voice. So we also our voice is such a big part of our identity as well. So that's not just our singing voice, our speaking voice. So if there's changes to our voice, or if our voice is not how we want it to sound, or we think our voice doesn't fit with who we are, it can cause a lot of distress to people. So we do work, you know, in speech and language therapy, when we're working on voice, we don't just look at good habits and breathing and, you know, vocal exercises. We also talk about, you know, perceptions of voice, and there's even voice disorders which are psychogenic in root. So there's nothing physically wrong with the vocal folds. There's no pathology present. If you examine them, they look perfect in working order, but to listen to the voice, it sounds very disordered, and that's from a psychogenic root. So there's psychological difficulties there, in which case you'd be working more on where those come from. But I'd say, for, you know, generally speaking, a good start for all of these factors is just learning like relaxation techniques, and from that being able to explore some of the emotions around voice, our own thoughts and feelings, and being able to just explore those things, because it's not something that we've necessarily talked about before. But being able to have a bit of an open dialogue with somebody and have that kind of therapeutic relationship that you have with a counsellor, or likewise, can have a positive impact generally on your confidence around your voice, and whether or not that the cause of your voice disorder might be psychological or there's physical things. It's like Lise pointed out, and Sev, it's like all these things marrying together. I think it's, you know, people are always amazed to know that there's over 100 muscles responsible for producing speech, and it's one of the very most complex, you know, actions that we can do it. And never mind that it starts from thought, and then it, you know, all the parts which have to work to get it before you've even made a sound is incredible. So when you think if just one of those things is slightly off, then it can have an impact. So it's very complex, but try and start with the basics, and being relaxed is a good one.
Amazing. And just Mark Richardson, shouts to Mark. Mark's just tuned in. I'm a poet, always end up with a sore dry throat after performing. Any tips? Now, Mark, he is an incredible poet, but he goes full steam ahead, and it reminds me of me when I'm doing my loud things as well. He's all in. But I mean, I know that you shouldn't be. I mean, I knew that even before the throat operation, because when I did it right, I would know that I shouldn't be sore. So first of all, I can answer that and say you shouldn't be sore after a gig, not the next day after it. So any tips, Sev? First of all, any tips for that?
I would like to certainly ask about him drinking enough liquids, and I don't mean alcohol or caffeine. If it's a sore, dry throat, then I would emphasize and focus on getting the throat lubricated, which doesn't mean drinking water on the day of the gig, but drinking water at least the day before. But essentially, you want to drink 2 liters of water every day, to keep your vocal cords lubricated, and the lubrication protects them. Now, the fact that he's saying he has a sore, dry, rough throat makes me believe it's to do with him not drinking enough water.
I think that you might be right there, because Mark, I've never seen you drinking water at a gig. I've seen you sharing an amber leaf rollie with me before a gig. I've seen you have a pint. I'm not trying to shame you. Here, we're all in the same boat here. So I think someone, I don't know who it was that said earlier on that, you know, if you are going to, obviously you shouldn't drink alcohol in an ideal world, but if you are going to partake, maybe do less booze as possible, and maybe save it for after the gig is good advice. But if you are going to drink beer, just make sure that you've got some water there to lubricate while you're doing it. And that's great.
Can I add one more thing, actually?
Yep.
What's better lubricating? What has a better lubricating action? And you can mix alcohol if you have to. Is pineapple juice. It works wonders for lubricating vocal cords. Pineapple juice, fresh pineapple juice, not soda.
Fresh pineapple juice. There is a hack, a nice wee hack there. So get some pineapple juice on the go. Lise, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, so there's a few different things. So definitely hydration is a point, but then just remembering that things that can contribute towards that as well are definitely about hypertension in the throat. So it sounds like there might be a little bit of overexertion or constriction going on. So I just suggest that you're checking in with yourself about your posture with your shoulders, just to make sure you're not kind of rising up and contracting as you kind of are going through your performance. So just to check in with that. And then as far as hydration stuff goes, yeah, pineapple juice, I've heard that. I don't like it myself, but apple juice, I also heard that's supposed to stimulate the salivary glands, and it's supposed to be like a pH that's most similar to your saliva. I'm getting quite into looking at herbal stuff now, so there's always a whole wealth of information there. Marshmallow syrup is definitely a good thing I've used in the past to help with lubrication.
Marshmallow syrup.
And it's from the marshmallow leaf, but then also
it's from the marshmallow man.
Yeah.
Sorry, just the way it was. Yeah, sorry, that's fine.
And then yeah, I'm testing out just now, just because I haven't taken a lot of it myself. Raspberry leaf and blackberry leaf as well, because they're supposed to be good for like soft tissues. So all these things are going to be quite personal to you and your like dietary stuff as well. So the more connected you are with that, then the more you'll know.
This is all brilliant advice, and I would also say that maybe take a lesson with one of these girls or someone else in Dundee, mate, because I know you're in Dundee. Just based on how wild and aggressive some of your poems are, I would bet that it's also something to do with what I was kind of similar doing it and shouting from the throat rather than the diaphragm and the breathing, and it's not coming from there. You're literally probably just coming from the throat. I've not noticed it before, but just thinking about it, next time I see it, I'll probably tell. And I think that could be another issue. But all great stuff. Ursula, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
I've heard other Mark's poetry too, and you could be onto something in that there's a like exuberant style as well. But so everything that's been said is that I totally agree with. And I mean, when it comes to drinking as well, there are lesser of evils in that drinking like spirits, like just if you just have a whiskey, for example, that's much harsher for your voice. So would avoid spirits if you are going to drink.
There is a magic spirit though. There is a magic spirit. If I remember, it's port or something like that. Something that I wouldn't normally drink. Someone told me there is a magic spirit. I don't know if it's rum or port, but if you drink it on the rocks, it's a big It was a famous diva used to do it, and apparently it's. But I don't know. Just stay off the spirit. Sorry to interrupt.
Right.
Sev, you not know of the magic spirit that you can just drink?
I can't think of any, but what I
Pineapple
would
juice and
imagine
rum.
drinking
Pineapple
would
juice and
be,
rum. Yeah, sorry.
maybe it was rum. I don't know what you call it. It's like Ayer cognac.
It was
Urszula, do you know
brandy.
how it's called?
Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, it was
Melissa
brandy.
says that's the one. That sounds about right. It was brandy. Something that I wouldn't normally drink, but apparently brandy with a bit of ice in it. Well, probably not ice because that would make it cold,
Interesting.
as we learned. Sorry to interrupt you, Steph. I just had to give you that breaking news update there.
Absolutely breaking news. No, that's fine. I was just asking Urszula, how is Ayer cognac in English? Is it advocat? Do you guys know what I'm talking about? The egg yolk
That is
mixed with vodka?
I'm not too sure what that would.
I have drank it in, you know, a drinking cabinet cocktail at a stupid time in the morning. I don't really know much about it, but it works in that situation. I don't know how it works for vocal cords. Mark's defending himself here, saying, I don't always drink before performance. Nobody's judging you here. This is the project. We're just trying to get the best we can do with what we're working in. Yeah, but like I said, it's just drink more water, and not just in the day. Drink it in the week. We need to drink water every day.
There's essentially a rule. If you want to sing good, you need to drink a day before your gig.
Yeah. And also,
because on the day of the gig, it's too late for your body to lubricate. It's too late on the day.
This is one I learned as well. You can tell me if I'm right or wrong, but I know it's true. But I think it's true. There's a difference. So if you think I've got a really important gig today, or I've got a really important recording session, I'm recording an album, so I want my voice to be at its best, and you smoke, don't think you can just quit smoking the day before or even the week before. I'm now aware of it, that it takes at least 14 days to improve your. In fact, sometimes that's my shit excuse for smoking, because it's like, oh well, I've not got 14 days, but for me, after 14 days of no smoking, my voice is much better than it would normally be. But try to quit smoking just like 5 days before. Your throat, for me anyway, it seems to be that your throat's healing, it's moving into a different place. And is anyone know anything about that? Has anyone heard this before? Have I made this up?
Yeah.
No, but it sounds like there might be some kind of an element of truth in it. But I mean, every now and again, I like a pipe, so it's like having to make that decision about like, should I smoke right now? What's my trajectory performance-wise? Because it's not just like the issue of drying out the soft tissue in the throat, but nicotine would contribute towards, for me personally anyway, hypertension and kind of, being like overstimulated, which is not going to make me feel like in my best state performance-wise. But you've mentioned earlier on about, you know, that sort of post-gig cigarette thing, and I can relate to that years ago when I used to smoke. And then also like alcohol, again, some people feel like that helps get them into like the calm space. So it's like, I think it was mentioned earlier, habits and just trying to cultivate the ones that work for you and everything in moderation.
I don't want to ruin your pipe. Do not feel guilty for your occasional pipe. That's not. Also, I don't think it actually applies to that. I was more going at the people who are smoking every day, who've maybe got 20 a day cigarette habits, and then they just think, oh, it's Wednesday. Oh, I'm recording an album on Saturday. I want this album to sound great. I'm going to quit smoking. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, you're right. It won't make an impact immediately, and you also
make it worse.
But you often get a cough when you quit smoking. I was a smoker too, so I know all. I know the feeling, and quite often you'll get a cough, which also is bad for your vocal cords when it's been kind of bang bash together, basically.
And in the day of COVID, having a cough is not good for your
No,
popularity,
it's
or
socially
it's a bit of a social faux pas if you cough.
It's true.
We've got lots of questions coming in, so we'll move on. Let's see. I'll go at the top because I know there's people commented before, and all the new ones are coming in. So I don't want to forget about the people. Well, this is a bit unrelated. Is Kiss Home on the way to Apple Cross?
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's the North Coast 500, so it's the Bialach na Ba. It's called. Yeah, it is.
CJ wants to know, lemsips are good, are they not? And like herbal teas. I don't know if he's saying lemsips are like herbal teas, or he's saying, and herbal teas. So we kind of covered the herbal tea thing a little bit earlier on by saying that we don't want lots of hot drinks, we don't want lots of cold drinks. So maybe if you let it cool down, it would probably be good to you. We didn't really get to the bottom of that though. Obviously things like ginger and stuff will be good for your throat, but will it dry it up if you drink too much? Is it moderation? Is that what we said about that?
There's nothing bad about having like a ginger drink per se. It's just very, very hot drinks or very, very cold drinks can be harsh. And there's certain things that can be more dehydrating, but something like ginger or herbal tea, as long as it's not a very, very hot drink. And also these things you have to be more mindful of these things if you do have problems with your voice, rather than if it's just, most of us wouldn't notice if we had a hot tea, but if you've got voice problems, then you want to kind of make sure that it's not too hot, just kind of warm, which, yeah.
And it also on lemsips there as well, quickly. Obviously, lemsips is an extreme circumstance where I imagine that we're getting into the realm of having a cold or something like that.
It's medicine.
Probably in a short-term basis in an emergency situation, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it's medicine. If you've got pain in your throat, it's just painkillers. So, yeah. And it could be easier to swallow than a pill. Yeah.
We got Johnny Sloan get kicked out of Brell. Shout outs to Johnny Sloan. That's his first pub back, and he's been kicked out of Brell. Paul says, I used to find that when I was delivering classes, my voice would start to go after an hour or so. And that's because not warming up. I think he's maybe talking about being a teacher or something.
Was it just speech? I'm assuming it was just speech.
I think it might be
if
just
the voice goes after 1 hour of talking, then I would also look into, again, hydration and probably air conditioning in the place that he was delivering the speeches.
Or shouting at people. Maybe shouting too
or
much.
Shouting. Don't shout at your students.
Don't shout at the students. Or blame air conditioning is what I take from that. Fierce Collective would like to know, do you think as adults people try to sing like someone they've heard rather than with their own voice? So I think what he's trying to say is that maybe if you start singing later in life, you're going to try and imitate someone. Has anyone got anything to say about that?
I think age wouldn't have anything to do with it. I think
because
it's just personality or preference.
A child might want to sing with their favourite singer.
Yeah.
So maybe to pick up on that point, so it does happen, obviously, maybe at all ages. How would you? Obviously, it's a long process to find your own voice. People spend their whole lives doing it sometimes. Was there any fast track advice you would say for someone who's trying to find their own voice rather than sound like an imitator?
Is the question to me or?
Yeah, that was a question to you.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Well, it's a question to everyone, but I just finding your own voice.
I think the fastest track is to stop listening to the people who you start sounding like, and start with that. Stop listening to too much of someone who's affecting your sound.
But there is no shortcut to longevity.
Yeah.
You're not going to just sound like Pavarotti overnight or your own version of a Pavarotti overnight. Is there anything else you'd like to add to that, Lise?
So one of my daily things that I do, and definitely it can be a fast process in as much as like spending 5 minutes a day, is that I go through some toning sounds on open vowel sounds. So I actually have a way of monitoring my voice over time because I'm connecting with the sound every day. I'm going through like a sequence of, say, like a, e, o, u, these vowel sounds, and just toning on them. And yeah, like each day I can sort of make an assessment of like, oh, how do I sound today? And you're your own best judge, basically, in terms of like, oh, I sound a bit tired, or I'm lacking like kind of that energy that I want. And it's about then sort of tuning into that, and that being your reference point, really, because then you're listening to your intuitive thing rather than sort of looking for that approval outside of yourself, or like starting to get into the comparison thing about, you know, my voice is not like.
Sorry, did we follow up? It was do you think adults try to sing like someone they've heard rather than with their own voice, and does that cause strain in their voice? So I think that's quite an interesting question. So what you're saying is that by trying to sing like someone else, is that a potential risk of straining?
Depends who it is, I guess.
Depends who it is.
Often
Yeah, because
time.
if you've got a big vocal range, then
Yeah.
you can totally try and get away with.
And the style of.
Yeah, I think it's not necessarily about trying to imitate an individual, but trying to imitate, say, like sound, vocal processing, post-production elements, is where I've noticed stuff. So like stuff like compression is a big one. So there are specific techniques, like belting is one, and other things like that. But if there's not the proper connection with the breath and the physiology and all that going on, then we do have that actual ability, that like innate mammalian thing of like the call and response and the imitation thing there. So it's really easy for us to hear sounds and to then try and repeat them, but we're not always able to force the voice into that kind of really that big kind of crazy compression sound. So that's something to watch, I would say.
People trying to imitate the robots. People are trying to copy things that they've seen, they've heard, and it's all trickery, digital trickery. Keep an eye out for that. Also, just for the straining the voice, so Urszula, you must have like examples of people who are talking to you, and probably the way that I would, and talking so loud, and you're like, why am I got a sore throat? And you're like, you're straining your voice. How do you approach it without telling someone like me to shut up? Like, is there a polite way just to kind of go, do you have a shh? But you can't, obviously it's rude to tell people to shush and shut up.
No, well, funnily enough, we do quite a lot of exercises of trying to go from like quiet to loud speech. So like varying your pitch, varying your volume. So yeah, and it's about kind of exploring if you learn the contrast between the really loud and the kind of softer speech, then it helps you to be able to modify your own speech, because it's not until you can learn. Well, you need to notice your own habits to be able to change them, that awareness. A lot of it is kind of experimenting with volume, rather than just trying to tell somebody to be quiet or slow down, because actually it's near impossible to do those things whilst you're also talking so instantaneous that trying to actually think about, oh, I'm going to do this slowly or calmly or quietly is quite tricky in the moment. So it's actually a longer process than just that.
Slowing down is a great thing to pick up on, because obviously right now this is a podcast. It's not even a podcast. I don't know what it is. Internet TV show. It's not
Yeah.
a podcast. I know it is sometimes, but we've got people all around the world tune into this show, and for some people it will be difficult to hear fast Scottish accents. So how it's a good way that I can, can you hear me slowly slowing down there as if I always talk like this? But how can I speak slower? How can I remember?
Oh, that's a good question. Often, sometimes it can be quite good to try and practice whilst reading something out, because you're a bit more conscious when you're reading out loud, and using sort of your finger to trace the words. So you're moving your finger along whilst reading out loud, building up your awareness of that sort of rate of speech. And also practicing with somebody who's also talking slowly, because we quite often mirror the way that the other person talks. So if you speak quite slowly and calmly, that reflects on the other person. So if you get the chance just to kind of, conscious of slowing down, you can.
Find people with slow voices to talk to. I understand the mirror thing. I lived abroad for a while, and I learned to slow down and pronounce my words better because no one understood what I was saying. But then all of a sudden, a bunch of drunk Irish guys or drunk Scottish guys would appear, and we would just start talking really, really fast. And my South African flatmate thought we were speaking Gaelic, and we weren't speaking Gaelic. The next question is Warmish Brandy, correct? Warmish Brandy. Susanna, thanks for tuning in. She says, what's the best way to strengthen your vocals as training to perform? Is there anything like YouTube tutorials that you would recommend, or is there obviously we've covered quite a lot of that stuff already, but maybe just to, in case Susanna's just joined us, just to sort of round up, Sev, what would, just briefly, how would
I could recommend, there's a lot of YouTube videos and stuff online, but I would recommend the one book that is actually covering a lot of things very in depth. It's like a big, thick Bible. I don't know if you can see it. Secrets of Singing by Jeffrey Allen.
Okay, brilliant. Jeffrey Allen's Secrets of Singing. That's some great advice. And obviously all the stuff that we mentioned as well. We've also got what's the difference between training vocals for rap versus training for singing? Sev, you've probably got a good handle on that.
There is no difference. There is no difference because you're essentially working on the same instrument. The only difference is obviously on the material you're working on, and maybe you focus on certain areas more. In rap, you would focus on projection and stamina, because it's not soft like, say, ballad singing, or it doesn't involve certain approach to your voice like bel canto or stuff. But as a basic, it's always the same because you're working on the same instrument.
And also depending on your rap style, because some rap styles is a lot faster, so it would require a lot more work on the breathing techniques.
And facial muscles and breathing technique, exactly. Breathing, very important for rappers.
Breathing is interesting as well. Is that I know lots of rappers who are usually younger rappers who are very fast at rapping very well in the recording studio in the house, but when they go and do it live, they struggle because, well, usually the sound's maybe not the best. The monitor, maybe they don't know how to get the right monitor mix, and also, until you've been on stage like a rabbit in headlights with a crowd in front of you, that maybe comes back to the anxiety and just the surprise of having to do it live. And so, but if your breathing's in good, if you're looking after your breathing, you're going to have an easier time with that in general.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thought Criminal says, What about eating before a gig? I learned that when I was playing flute as a teenager, none of the wind players used to eat before because you produce too much saliva. I do this before choir concerts. But is that true or just a myth? Well, that's a really interesting question. I tend to not eat before a gig personally, just mainly, I mean, it's not even when I'm nervous, because I don't get nervous too much for gigs. Sometimes out of nowhere I do get a bit nervous, but I just think that I'm in the zone of if I don't eat before I leave the house, then there's no chance of me eating before a gig, and maybe not even after it, because I forget to eat and I just don't feel like it. I don't want to be at a venue trying to eat food and people try to talk to me and ask what time the gig's on and stuff like that. But that's just a kind of hang up I've got, that I just don't eat. And also when I do eat, sometimes I feel like I get too bloated and I just don't feel comfortable. But is there any myth?
I have a funny anecdote about this in relation to cream. So earlier we were chatting about like whether dairy is a good thing for the voice or not. So coming from like a classical perspective, that was always a narrative that I had kind of grown up with. You know, dairy contributes towards too much mucus production and all this kind of stuff. But I was in Mongolia last year learning throat singing, and they have a very rich dairy-based diet. So, you know, you're eating cream, you're eating milk in the tea all the time, and you're eating a lot of like fatty meat as well. So that was like a dietary adjustment for me, but whilst doing sort of intensive vocal training. And I actually was encouraged to drink like the milky tea as a kind of a soothing thing when I started to do one technique called hahahahanhhahha, which is a really like gravelly, growly sound in the throat. And pretty much all of my teachers were like, you know, drink more tea, don't drink cold water, don't drink cold water. But one morning I got up and had like breakfast, which was like some kind of bread thing with like fresh, imagine like clotted cream. So very rich. And I came to do my like session with my teacher later on, and I was like rifting because I had indigestion from this cream. So like my Mongolian was really basic, but I had to be like, sorry, cream. So I think it's so much to do with your...
How do you say sorry, cream in Mongolian?
Uchlare su in that.
Oh, well done.
So
can you do any Mongolian throat singing just now?
So the technique that I'm talking about, the hahahahanhhahha, which is the really growly sound,
it's amazing. I love it. I was watching videos last week about it. I went down the rabbit hole of the Mongolian, Tibetan, the lot. I love it.
It's crazy sound, yeah. So there's a few different ones. There's like and then there's like other ones with overtones. But yeah, I was trusting their judgment on that one about the dietary stuff, because yeah, I was like, these guys have been doing it for ages, and they don't seem to be having any issues apart from like, yeah, if you eat too much, you're gonna get gas.
That was brilliant. So that was actually amazing.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Wow. Round of applause. Because I was just wondering, like, how much training goes into that. I mean, so obviously you're not from... So how long did it take you to pick up some of the techniques from Mongolian throat singing?
Well, I was there for 4 months, so I wasn't getting teaching contact time that whole time. But if we're talking about all the different elements that go into voice and singing, you're talking about trying to drink in culture and practice as well. So I was like learning some of the language and sort of, yeah, taking a holistic approach, I suppose, trying to merge different things together. But yeah, I had like 5 different teachers, so that's something to mention as well, because you said to one of the people that had questions about finding a teacher. I think don't necessarily limit it to one teacher, because my time there, I had 5 and they all brought out totally different qualities in my voice, not just within the context of what they were teaching me with the Mongolian stuff, but also just with how I was already using the voice, and like my Scottish sound and that kind of thing. So one teacher might open one door for you, and then that takes you on to someone else who can offer you something different. So yeah.
So wait, how long did it take you before you could make that kind of noise?
That kind of noise, that was like...
Is it a lot of work?
Yeah. Basically, I think someone earlier mentioned this thing of like the vocal training, and I think my perspective on vocal training did change a bit out there, because I actually realized how much more I needed to be doing in terms of physical training. I was like, if I want to be making that sound, like he was making me like go up the hill and carry rocks and stuff. I had to sort of check in, like, is he mocking me? Like, is he putting me through some sort of initiation here? But like, doing like sit-ups and, training basically. So
is there similarities between like, heavy metal? Because it obviously it's otherworldly. It's nothing to compare it to, but also I have the same when I watch someone doing that, and then I see someone doing like heavy metal with the kind of sort of the growl. It's obviously a totally different discipline, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, if you've not checked out the band The Who, they are, according to the like popular music charts, they are considered to be Mongolian heavy metal. I don't know if I would even class them as that. They're like in a league of their own, but they played in Glasgow twice in the last couple of years, and yeah, they're kind of definitely tapping into...
What are they called? Sorry, The Who?
The Who, H-U.
Yeah, sorry, right, that was confusing there, because I was trying to ask you if you just said The Who. The Who, but it's The Who with H-O-O. Obi Joe says, amazing throat singing, wish I'd tuned in earlier. Wow. Angela says, awesome. Yeah, that was cool. Well done. Tam the Van is in the house. He says, I was introduced to music therapy when Kel was months old. Would follow a woman playing a fiddle around the room with baby HDID against your chest, and do all the A-E-I-O-U and vibrate your voice through the baby.
Mm-hmm.
That's
cool.
Urszula?
Yeah, so he's holding this baby, baby Kyle to his chest and making those sounds. So when he was saying he's doing the baby would feel the vibrations on his chest, on
right, okay.
their chest it's a therapeutic process, like therapeutic feeling, and yeah, nice.
And the A-E-I-O-U.
I think maybe just vowel sounds.
Yeah, because obviously
different vowel sounds have different kind of. They feel different. They could feel different. They got different levels of vibration, and but yeah, the baby would feel the vibrations and enjoy that.
Amazing stuff. Well, I think we're just about out of time just now, guys, and let's just. What is the final thought on it all? Urszula, let's start with you. If someone's just wants to find out more about how to better use their voice, what is what's a nice bit of advice to end it on?
I think just start off, drink plenty of water, try to relax, learn some good breathing techniques and good posture, and yeah, take it from there. If you are worried though, if it's ongoing, I just say just go to your doctor because there can be underlying things, but ultimately, like, those things are a good start.
Can we just get a wee bit about the posture before we go as well, actually, because we haven't mentioned posture yet?
Yeah, so if you are slouched in any way, then that can affect the way that your alignment of your vocal, your whole your throat and all the way down. So when you're sitting, you want to be sitting with your feet flat on the floor and sort of the 90 degrees angle, and 90 degrees at your waist, 90 degrees at your knees, that kind of nice sitting posture with your head straight and just shoulders back and relaxed, and try and working on tension. So good posture generally helps with voice.
I just reminded me how terrible my posture is in the show. I'm typing things here, and I need to think about that. That's amazing. Sev, any final words of wisdom?
I will just repeat what Urszula said. Hydration, relaxation, and breathing. Breathing. Focus on breathing. Start exercising. The simplest exercise that gives you the quickest results is you inhale, exhale on S, and try to go as steady and as long as you can.
Brilliant. Amazing. Thank you, Sev. Lise, any final words?
Yeah, just go at your own pace. Make sure you're doing things in a kind of safe way, not overstraining. Try and bring a bit of play, fun, exploration into it, and treat it as a journey and a process. And there's not necessarily like a final destination at the end of it. Just keep it intuitive and trust yourself as much as you can, and then ask for help when you need it.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that thank you so much, all you guys. It's been amazing. And I think that I would recommend hitting up these people for advice or a lesson, or someone in your area for a lesson, because like I said, the reason this is happening is because I was forced to go to a lesson, and it was just blew my mind how bad I was at all these simple things that we've been doing since birth, but we just don't know that we're doing it wrong. So thank you so much for just that wee refresher course. I'm going to stop doing all the things that I'm doing wrong and try and do the good things again better. I think we're going to end tonight with a song from Tom Spirals, who will be on the show tomorrow night. We're here every night at 7. Well, most nights at 7 o'clock. And Tom Spirals is amazing, great crack, reggae, dub, legend, singer, MC, musician. And it's going to be a good crack tomorrow. This has been the first ever episode of the pro-ject, but I think we'll do it again. Hopefully you'll come on the show again, because it's been really interesting speaking to you guys. Check out Sev K, check out Lise, check out Urszula. Thank you so much for your time, guys, and we'll end with Tom Spirals' video. Thank you. And Tom will be on the show tomorrow, and I just thought I'd give his wee single a plug, because if you don't know who Tom is, it's time you learned. I just got a message that there is no audio. Fucked it. It was all going swimmingly, and then I ruined it. Yeah, thanks to all our guests tonight. Thanks everyone who tuned in, and share. I think you should share the YouTube one. I know that he's don't really do a lot of the sharing stuff these days on YouTube, but I think sharing this episode is really important, because so many people, your friends and family members, that are either got a job that involves a lot of talking, or singers, performers, poets, rappers, and it's just a weird thing. And I don't know if it's just Scotland, but if it's a working class thing, I don't know what it is, but we don't look after our voices, and we should. We're going to get better results if we do. So yeah, we're going to do that. Try take 2. Tom Spirals will be on the show tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Can we hear audio this time? Let me know. Can you hear this?
State of mind,
yeah, we got it.
State of mind.
Nice one, guys. See you tomorrow.
Trying to me access denied to a state of mind. State of mind. Can't get in a head and put a border inside the state of mind. State of mind. Babylon will lock off my state of mind. They won't keep me blind. They don't want me to find the natural mystics I play inside. Watch us move in a true combination. Designed like a key in a lock, made to measure the human creation. Why does this system here try to block? Taking healing and great inspiration from a place far beyond closed eye. The depths of our meditations should be open to all who come wise. When you know, you will always remember. Once you've seen, you will never forget. Keep it burning and blow on the embers. Hold the space for the truth and protect. See, this system has made it so hard now to explore the expanse of our minds. For so long they tried to distract us from the magic within our design. State of mind, a state of mind. Babylon trying to make access denied to a state of mind. State of mind, can't get in a head and put a border inside. A state of mind, state of mind. Babylon will lock off my state of mind. They won't keep me blind, they don't want me to find the natural mystics I play inside. So many lies they go preach, pure confusion they teach. All lost people they leech, and they don't want us to reach to a summit and peak, to consciousness is see. But this is our mountain and we won't retreat. I see all of myself, yes, and all that we are. Reclaim my full potential, I know it goes far. I will shoot for the moon and I will travel to the stars. I'll push the limit and I'll raise up the bar. It can't be forgotten as we move through time. We just another moment in a long line. We stand on the shoulders of the ones who define the foundations of what we call humankind. Culture so rich, so diverse and divine, more ancient than the words I can use to describe. Each generation passed on what they find, and all over they share the way to reach the state of mind. State of mind. Babylon try and tell me access denied. State of mind, state of mind. They can't get inside my head and draw their borderline. State of mind. Babylon won't block off my state of mind. They won't keep me blind, they don't want me to find the natural mystics I play inside. State of mind, it's a state of mind. Babylon won't lock off my state of mind. They won't keep me blind, they don't want me to find the natural mystics I play inside. State of mind to a state of mind. Babylon try tell me say access denied to a state of mind. A state of mind. Can't get inside my head and draw your borderline. State of mind. State of mind. State of mind. State of mind. State of mind.
Brothers and sisters,
Is that you, Daniel? Are you before me?
You call that radio?
Hello? Hello?
Hello, yes, this is Dog.
Hola, baby.